So one day, all these runners are in the middle of running a marathon, and suddenly kaboom. A bomb goes off. Then kaboom. A second one goes off. Why? Well, the story starts with this guy, Tamerlan. And Tamerlan is 23 when all of this begins, and he's living in Boston. And Tamerlan, he's an amateur boxer, and he's actually pretty good at it. He really wants to represent the United States in the Olympics one day. So he trains hard every day, trying to make that dream come true. But then one day in 2010, all of that starts to fall apart for him because the governing body of the national tournament introduces a new rule that basically says that to compete in the Olympic trials, you have to be a U.S. citizen. And Tamerlan isn't a U.S. citizen. He was actually born in what was, at the time, known as the Soviet Union. And so, boom, his Olympic dreams are over. And this is devastating for him. I mean, it feels like his entire future has been ripped away from him. And because of that, he loses all motivation for boxing, and he quits the sport altogether. And by 2011, he takes all of this frustration and energy and focuses it on his religion, Islam. But specifically, he focuses on a very extremist version of those beliefs. And he starts convincing himself that his Olympic dreams were destroyed because the United States must hate Muslims and is actively waging war against Islam. And the deeper he falls into this mindset, the more extremist ideas he starts to adopt. Then, in 2012, he travels from Boston all the way over to Dagestan, Russia. And while he's there, he becomes even more radicalized, and allegedly, he links up with some Islamic extremist groups. We aren't exactly sure what he does while he's there. But what we do know is that 6 months later, he returns to Boston, and he's even more extreme than before. And that is when this guy enters the story. His name is Dzhokhar. And Dzhokhar is 19, and he's also Tamerlan's younger brother. He's also a college student. And over time, Tamerlan starts influencing Dzhokhar. And slowly, Dzhokhar becomes radicalized as well. And somewhere along the line, these two brothers decide that they want to attack the United States in a way that would hurt as many people as possible. So they come up with a plan. They're going to detonate a couple of bombs. And the target they choose is the upcoming Boston Marathon because they know a lot of people will be there every year, which means there could potentially be a lot of casualties. So they start preparing. They get online and read about how to make bombs. They gather up materials. And ultimately, they create what are called pressure cooker bombs, which are simply bombs built inside pressure cookers. Anyway, a few months go by, and it's now 2013. The day of the Boston Marathon arrives. The race is going on, and huge crowds are packed along the route. And once the race has been going on for hours, the brothers make their move. Tamerlan carries one of the bombs they made inside a backpack, and he places it near the finish line, where there's a large crowd of people. At the same time, Dzhokhar places a second bomb a short distance away. Then the two brothers flee the scene. A few minutes later, kaboom, one of the bombs explodes. Then, kaboom, a second bomb explodes. And these two blasts tear through the crowd. Everyone is panicking and running away. The whole place is in chaos. And ultimately, more than 260 people are injured, and unfortunately, 3 people die. So immediately, the FBI and local police get involved, and they launch a massive investigation. They're questioning witnesses. They're combing through surveillance footage from nearby stores, security cameras, and videos taken by spectators. And eventually, they piece together somewhat low-resolution images of their suspects, Tamerlan and Dzhokhar. So they can kind of see them, but at this point, they don't know their identities. Now, the feds don't want to release these images to the public yet because they're worried the suspects might flee, or worse, get angry and plant another bomb. So they hold the images back. Meanwhile, this story is huge news. The internet is going crazy trying to figure out who set off these bombs. And people online begin trying to solve the case themselves. On Reddit especially, users start analyzing all kinds of public photos and videos from the marathon, trying to identify the bombers. And pretty quickly, they start publicly accusing innocent random people of being the suspects, which is actually really dangerous because it risks sending an angry mob after the wrong person. And because of that, the feds are basically like, okay, Reddit is going crazy. Innocent people are being accused, so let's go ahead and release the images of the suspects. And so they released the surveillance images to the public earlier than they had wanted. And that is when Tamerlan and Dzhokhar see these images on the news. And they start freaking out. And they decide, all right, it's time to flee and go on the run. But before they leave, they're going to need a second gun because right now, Tamerlan is the only one carrying one. So later that night, they go over to the MIT campus because they know some police officers might be there, and they can try to rob one of them for his weapon. Well, sure enough, they spot a police officer sitting alone in his patrol car. And they approach him, and blam, blam, they shoot him. And unfortunately, he doesn't survive. Then they try to steal his gun. But his holster has a safety lock on it, and they can't get the weapon out. So they leave. A little later, they hijack an SUV, GTA style, and they basically take the driver hostage.
So now they're driving two vehicles for some reason. The stolen SUV and Dzhokhar's green Honda Civic. But then they both stop for gas. And here, the driver they took hostage is able to jump out of the SUV and escape. He runs to a nearby gas station and calls the police. And he gives them details about the guys who kidnapped him and about his stolen SUV. So pretty quickly, police are able to locate the two brothers driving both vehicles. So they pull up on them. And immediately, blam, 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 the shooting starts. And this turns into a full-on shootout. And Dzhokhar is actually throwing pipe bombs at the police. But before long, officers manage to grab Tamerlan and overpower him. And they get him onto the ground while trying to handcuff him. And while all of that is happening, Dzhokhar is like, "Oh shit." And he jumps into the stolen SUV. And he floors it. He reverses and then speeds directly toward the officers. The officers quickly move out of the way, leaving Tamerlan lying in the street. And Dzhokhar runs over his own brother. And this eventually ends up killing him. But Dzhokhar manages to escape. He drives away. Then he abandons the car and runs into a residential neighborhood. He ends up in a random person's backyard and hides inside a boat covered with a tarp. And police are searching all around the area for him, but they can't find him. Around 15 hours go by, and police still have no idea where he went. But then the homeowner, the guy who owns the boat, notices a loose strap on the boat's tarp, and he goes outside to fix it. He looks inside. And that's when he sees Dzhokhar hiding out. So he immediately calls the police. Bam. Dzhokhar is arrested. Here's a picture of him. And so ultimately he goes to trial. He's found guilty. And he's sentenced to